peace talks between Israelis and Palestinians. The Israeli occupation of the West Bank is one of the major stumbling blocks. Jewish settlers who've made the West Bank their home say they will never leave. Meanwhile, Palestinians claim the land for their future state. Our correspondent went to Hebron, the biggest Palestinian city in the West Bank, and a flashpoint for tensions. This report reminds us that Israelis themselves are sharply divided over the occupation. Gallagher Fenwick and Dina Sway have this story.
While Middle East peace talks seem bogged down, the debate remains passionate between Israelis who want their country out of the West Bank and those who want to maintain a Jewish presence there. Hebron is perhaps where arguments can get most heated. Some 180,000 Palestinians live under the watchful eyes of hundreds of IDF soldiers. One of their missions is to protect 850 settlers who moved here. David Wilder is their spokesman.
This is a particularly holy book.
He refers to the West Bank by its biblical name, Judea and Samaria.
Of course, we believe that Jews should remain here. We believe that all of the land in Judea and Samaria, particularly a place like Hebron, should be annexed by the State of Israel.
Yehuda Shaul has made a name for himself by being one of those Israelis who campaign publicly against their country's military occupation of the West Bank. These streets, which Palestinian vendors have been expelled from, is where the activist once served as a soldier and where he now recounts what he did at the time. He says that, as a grenade machine gun operator, he was ordered to shoot towards Palestinian homes nearby.
It is insane. But I aimed to the area of the target and pulled the trigger and leave it as fast as I could and just sprayed that the less amount of grenades were fired. Because if you pull the trigger for a minute, 88 grenades are out. It's a very massive machine gun.
Soldiers, settlers, and others in Hebron know Yehuda very well and often gather around him, at times to oppose his views.
Not army posts. To my knowledge, no Israeli soldier ever indiscriminately fired on Arab people intentionally with intent to kill them.
Jewish people think like me. Sadly, those who oppose us have power. They have media support. There have always been dishonest people around. Yehuda Shaul is not the first of them to come here.
Among the Israelis who joined the tour, Esti feels that this experience confirmed her original feelings about this thorny issue.
I do believe that the idea of people being here and imposing their presence on another people just because they believe historically that they should be here and making people's lives difficult, I don't understand, and it's something I have a hard time with.
As the tour comes to an end, Yehuda warns of the perils which he believes Israel will face if it does not change its policies in the area.
We need to take a decision. Either we live with Israel, in Israel, with legitimacy, without the occupation, or we continue with the occupation and we lose the state of Israel entirely.
Yehuda and those who think like him know that, in this debate, their opponents,
I guess you know there's other side to the story, and
currently have the upper hand in Israel's government.
All right, let's take a wider look at this. We're joined now by Ragad Dwight, a member of Hebron's Municipal Council. She joins us live via satellite from Hebron. Nice to have you with us, Ms. Dwight. A quick question. Do you think there'll always be an Israeli presence in Hebron, or do you believe there will be a point where the 200,000 Palestinians won't be living under the watchful eye of the Israeli soldiers?
Good morning. Well, I hope, and most Palestinians hope, all of them actually, that there will be no settler presence in Hebron eventually, after the final solution is found for the Palestinian cause and question.
But my question is, do you actually believe that that will happen?
Yes, I believe that will happen because this is the source of hope that we have as Palestinians. We think that since the division of Palestine in 1947, Palestinians were given only 22% of historical Palestine, and it is not logical that the Israelis will compete with the Palestinians on these 22%, which is less than 1/4 of original or historical Palestine.
How do the residents of Hebron, your constituents, perceive someone like Yehuda Shaul, whom we just saw in that report?
I haven't seen the report actually, but I heard his voice. I think that in Hebron we had experiences with radical Israelis, with radical settlers. We had massacres in Hebron. We had people shot, only under trivial reasons. So we think that it is actually not acceptable at this point in history that settlers like these will be given a voice in order to take away Palestinian rights and to...
Ms. Dweik, if I may just interrupt, Mr. Yehuda Shaul is actually an Israeli former soldier in Hebron who campaigns against Israeli presence in Hebron. I believe he's quite well known to some Palestinians, at least in Hebron.
Yeah. We actually think that the Israelis who support Palestinian rights, to have their own state and to have their own independent homeland, they are friends to our cause, and that they will help us maybe achieve what we want, which is establishing our independent state. Yes.
What are your expectations with respect to the current peace talks between Israelis and Palestinians?
Well, we hope that these peace talks will help, both sides to reach a solution that is acceptable, especially for the Palestinians who have had a very hard time, since 1948, since they lost, their land in 1948 and have become refugees all over the world, and then they were subjected to occupation since 1967. It has been a long time without our rights. We hope that we will achieve our rights eventually with the support of the international community.
Now, recently, you just mentioned the right of return for Palestinian refugees. Recently, Mahmoud Abbas, the president of the Palestinian Authority, said that he himself is a refugee. He says he didn't want to go back to the village of his birth. He seems to be paving the way for major concessions on the Palestinian side as far as the right of return is concerned. Do you approve?
Well, actually, I think this is a controversial story, and the media has reported it a lot, but I think it was misunderstood. President Abbas was talking, he was quoted out of context. No Palestinian can give up, the right of return on behalf of others. All Palestinian refugees expect to go back to their homeland, and they think that there will be no final resolution without achieving this right. Yes.
I believe he was speaking on a personal level. He was speaking of his own situation, saying he didn't want to go back.
Probably, I don't also disregard the possibility of being misquoted out of context. Yes.
What is your assessment of Mahmoud Abbas in these negotiations?
Well, I think he has been very patient, and some Palestinians even criticize his patience, and they think that he should come harder on Israelis because it has been a very long time since we have achieved anything in these negotiations. We stopped negotiations for 3 years under the hope that Israelis will stop, expanding their settlements, and this have not happened. Since July, when the settlements resumed, about 10,000 new housing settlements were built, and probably more than 50 Palestinians were killed. Many houses were demolished on the Palestinian side. So many Palestinians think that Mahmoud Abbas has been very patient lately, and maybe he is giving last opportunities and last chances for peace to take place. But I assure you that not everybody is happy with that. I personally trust the president. I think that he aims for the best, but it is not always in his hands to make real achievement because we have two sides and maybe more to the issue.
All right, Raghad Dweik, thank you very much for joining us here on France 24. Ms. Dweik, a member of Hebron's Municipal Council, thanks for sharing your views.
Yeah.
We're going to take a short break, but we'll be back in just a few moments with another full recap of the world news, and we'll be live from Sochi, where the Olympic flame has just arrived. We'll be bringing you those live pictures in just a few moments.